I need you to knock some sense into me. I'm sure you can.
Yeah, I don't know.
I enjoy listening to you. I don't always agree with everything.
All right, enough of this persiflage.
So, you want my question?
I'm certainly not going to get myself in trouble by telling you what to do.
That makes great sense. Gosh, that's good.
Did I overwhelm you with words and wisdom?
I've got 7 kids. I feel like I could call you every day.
Wait, you're telling me I'm wrong? Disconnect.
Yes, I am, Dr. Ray.
You just need to tune in to Dr. Ray, honey. He's got all the answers.
Am I right or am I right?
Probably.
Now, from the studios of Living Bread Radio Network in Canton, Ohio, the hometown of Mother Angelica, here's Dr. Ray.
Now you get to be my age, you know, you're very lucky, very blessed if you don't have to take any medications. All these medication bottles comes with warning. I'm waiting, and I've talked to my pharmacist about this. Does he have any medicine bottle that says, warning, may cause permanent weight loss, remove wrinkles, and increase energy? Waiting for that one. Nice to have you with me here on The Doctor Is In. This is the Monday variant, E-Person Monday. I've been taken to task through an E-Person. Believe it or not, somebody said to me, okay, quit saying E-Person because the bottom line is we already know. Well, here's an interesting thing about radio. Most people don't listen regularly. Most people catch bits and pieces of radio here and there. They're either in their car, something's happening, the radio's on a little bit. So I forget, I saw a thing that said the average listener was 7 minutes or 12 minutes on radio, and then they move on. So when I say E-Person Monday, and I explain why I say that, which is I don't want to say mail, email, because that's patriarchal, linguistically insensitive. And if it isn't something I am, I'm sensitive. Toxic sensitivity is my goal. Rush Limbaugh used to say, with half my brain tied behind my back. Now, I listen to Rush a lot, and I probably lost count of how many times he said that. It was his signature. He had certain other things that he would say because he knew, too, as popular as he was, he had a listening audience, I think, cumulative of 20 million, rivaled only by Paul Harvey. He knew that people would catch the show as they could here and there, and it was also a signature. So I am responding to that person's email who said, don't do that anymore. And I did really want to say, well, okay, you can tell me not to do it anymore, but I don't know. Are you my producer? Are you my boss at EWTN? I don't think you have an E-Person Monday. So that's what this is. And we shall get to those E-Persons very shortly. People have asked me, why do you shrink types oftentimes say things that just seem to go beyond common sense? You'll offer notions or theories or ideas on human relations or parenting or therapy or thinking that the average person would look at with one eye raised in skepticism. Why is this? My theory, again, we're supposed to come up with theories, is that if a person is supposed to be, and it's interesting, I really, as I get older, I'm getting very uncomfortable using this word in the social sciences, is supposed to be an expert, then they're supposed to be more knowledgeable than you, smarter, more intricate in understanding the human condition. As a result, the pressure to say something really smart, something you wouldn't think of, is always there. I remember one time in my early days as a shrink, I was a shrinkling, I did evaluations for the juvenile court in Columbiana County. And the individual who was the director of the juvenile facility said, Ray, we don't want any psychological gobbledygook. Gobbledygook? Yeah, that's a good word, gobbledygook. It's bad writing. We want, hi Molly, got it? Okay, thanks. We want straightforward talking and recommendations. I said, Tony, that's good. That's what I'm most comfortable doing. About 6 or 8 months into this, word got back to me that he had said, I wish Ray would get in deeper into the psychological ramifications of all of this with these kids. Go deeper into their psyches. And I thought to myself, why do that? Because you only have so many options. You got probation, you got therapy, you got further inpatient type interventions. You don't have too much. But even he, after a while, was putting the subtle pressure on the shrink type to become, quote unquote, well, come on, you know, that's what you're trained for. You got to look deeply into the psyche. And I've seen, whether it's from a college prof or somebody who writes a book or some new theory about communication or discipline, I've seen that there is a pressure. If you're supposedly an expert with letters after your name, there is a pressure to stretch beyond what the average person would think in their common sense. As a result, you stretch too far, you stretch into nonsense. You leave common sense and go to nonsense. I was in grad school and I minored in counseling. I had a major in clinical psych. My minor was counseling. I thought, okay, well, I'll piggyback. One of my classes, the prof said, there is a relationship between the way that you eat, the way you chew your food, and how you digest information. If you chew for a long time before swallowing, that means you're a critical thinker. If you don't, if you take quick bites and swallow them semi-whole, you're kind of gullible. You're kind of not questioning. I raised my hand and I said, is there any evidence for this? And he said, of course, we didn't have desks in that counseling class because, well, desks are so throwback. We were all around a room leaning against a wall. I was leaning against the wall. I was trying to make myself comfortable. Wish I had a pillow. And he said, Ray, I noticed you're leaning back. Is that a sign? Is that a sign that you're not sure of your question? Once again, a stretch. So I kind of stood up. I stood up. And I asked the question again. And he said, your legs are crossed. Now, that body language is telling me that you're somewhat confused about this whole idea. So I uncrossed my legs. I asked it again. He gave some other observation. All of this was predicated upon the idea that the way your body is situated in space is a sign of what you're thinking or whatever conflicts you're having in your head. I gave up after about the third time. But he was a professor. He was teaching a certain type of personality theory. I remember what it was, but I'm not going to say it. And he had to say, these are things that the average person wouldn't think of. I mean, when's the last time somebody asked you, when you asked them a question, well, I notice you're kind of leaning back. Are you unsure of yourself? Or you're slouched in your chair. Is that a sign that you're being a little lazy about this? People don't do that. Only profs or expert types. I call it the stretch. The stretch is I reach and reach and reach to say something you wouldn't think of that's really, really, really smart. And then I can stretch too far. And that's why I think we have so many notions out there that are not workable. Now, on the other hand, what I have noticed, this is kind of unrelated, there's so many experts floating around that they have battered common sense. They truly have. A lot of parents have good sense, and they have a reservoir of instincts and experience that they can use. But they question whether they can use that because, well, they're not an expert. So what then tends to happen is if somebody with letters after their name talks common sense or good sense, one, it either sounds foreign because they've done too much reading and their head is spinning, or two, it brings them back to what they, in their gut, know is a good way to do it. The stretch. Pick up any kind of self-help book, and you can find examples of the stretch. You really can. I wrote a book, and it's going to be released sometime soon. It was called Advice Worth Ignoring, and it had 50 expert ideas that can really confuse you, can make you overthink, can corrode your authority. We're going to be re-releasing that, God willing, in another year or so. So I'll be coming back out. All right, well, I'm stretching way past the break, so when we come back, dive into these e-persons.
Do you own popular index mutual funds or ETFs? If so, you're automatically own shares of companies that conflict with your moral beliefs. Ave Maria mutual funds are managed to conform to pro-life and pro-family values. Long-term investors can invest in the no-load Ave Maria mutual funds. The experienced professional portfolio managers make decisions based on investment fundamentals and pro-life values. You can learn more about Ave Maria mutual funds today at 866 Ave Maria or visit AveMariaFunds.com.
You like pizza? Me too. And for that, we can thank our friend Tom Monahan. First, he starts with $900 and opens one pizza shop. Then it's worldwide, thousands of shops. But all this was just a warm-up for his greatest achievement yet. He built a university.
God inspired Tom to build up generations of men and women who have a hunger to reach the world for Christ. This place is Ave Maria University.
Visit avemaria.edu to see what's next.
This summer, take a vacation that lifts your spirit and soul. Join corporate travel for the annual Grand Getaway on beautiful Mackinac Island, August 3rd to the 5th. Experience historic Grand Hotel, powerful talks from Father Mike Schmitz, Steve Ray, Dr. Edward Sri, and Father Leo Padalinghug, plus live broadcasts with Teresa Tamio, daily mass, 4-course dinners, and dancing. Faith, fellowship, and fun in one retreat. Only a few rooms remaining. Don't miss out.
Book this Ave Maria radio trip now by checking the travel page on AveMariaRadio.net.
This program brought to you in part by Ave Maria, Florida, a big kind of small town where golf carts take you everywhere and there's always something fun around the corner. Discover championship golf, resort-style amenities, and a town center full of shopping and dining. With Ave Maria University and Ave Maria Catholic Church at its heart, it's a community full of connection and charm. More than 25 model homes are available for viewing. More information can be found at AveMaria.com. That's AveMaria.com.
I got a new book coming out. Well, I haven't really started it yet, but talking to the publisher. Working title: Humility for Fun and Profit. Yeah, since I want to piggyback off of my 9-time defending champion of Catholic media's Humility Award. I don't have any of the plaques or trophies from winning the Humility Award because if you show up to get them, you lose them. He's not very humble. So that's why I win, because a lot of the other contestants, they show up all excited to get the humility award. And I just simply say, no, I don't deserve that. My husband and I are starting the process to become foster parents. He doesn't want to share the information with our parents until we basically go and pick up a child. It's like, therefore, they can't say anything. We already got the kid. They've both expressed disagreement with our decisions in the past, including when we have gotten pregnant with our children. Now, I don't know how many children this writer has. My mom, in particular, has mentioned multiple times. Oh, there's the number. Okay, I just didn't read far enough down. My mom, in particular, has mentioned multiple times, we don't need any more children. Isn't it fascinating how people think they can just tell you what you are allowed and not allowed to do? Something as personal as welcoming children in marriage? She says, we have 5. Any advice, Dr. Ray, on when in the process we should share what we are doing? Yeah, here's my advice. Whenever you want. See, if I were to talk to your husband, I would say, what is motivating you to hide this from your mother? And I'm sure he would say, I don't want to hear the objections. I don't want to get the grief. I don't want to be questioned. I don't want to be critiqued. Now, I understand that. However, here's my comeback. That's kind of like saying, I'm going to be bullied because I know that you, in fact, don't like this, what we're doing. And you're going to comment on it. And furthermore, it's one thing to have birth children, which mom already thinks you have too many, which always just amazes me. And I've been on that track on this program many, many times. It's incredible. We live in a society you can have sexual relations with anybody, anywhere, anytime, however you want. You don't have to get married. It doesn't matter. The only thing we'll critique is a married, committed couple who have more than their 1.86 children. Then we start to get on you. That just amazes me. So, 1, we've already got mom saying you're not allowed to have any more kids. 2, you want to foster? What are you, nuts? You're a lost cause. You are already overloaded with your 5 children, and now you want to foster? What about those other kids' welfare? I mean, she's going to throw all kinds of objections at you. You know that. But for me, as I get older, I don't want to say I bristle, because I really don't fire back too much. I stiffen, maybe is a better word, against bullying manipulation. Don't tell me what I'm allowed to do or not allowed to do. This is not a moral issue. Matter of fact, this is a charitable issue. Now, I don't know what their home life is like. They have 5 kids under 9, let's say, and it's chaos. I don't know. And I would wonder if I'm talking to a mother, she'd say, I just care about them because they're just so overloaded and they're frustrated and their marriage is suffering. That may be, I have no idea. But I'm going to assume this is more along the lines of what typically goes on with married couples who welcome children, especially if they go beyond 3. You're allowed to go beyond 2 if you have 2 of the same sex. Is that gender assuming? 2 boys, 2 girls, and people, a certain percentage of the people will say, well, you're trying for your boy, right? And then, if you have your boy or your girl, and now you have 2 of one sex and 1 of another, then there is no reason for you to go any further. Now, I don't know the motive for these folks wanting to foster. No idea. However, I'm going to assume, well, first of all, they listen to Catholic media. So I think predicting from base rates, I'd be safer in saying that they probably have a pretty stable family life and marriage. Given that, I also can predict that, unfortunately, many grandparents give grief to their adult children when they have, quote unquote, too many children. I had a lady who adopted a whole bunch of kids, and she told me that people would say to her, what are you trying to prove? What? What are you trying to prove? That somehow you're superior to us in your parenting involvement? That you love kids more than we do? That you are going to be more charitable about this than we are? What are you trying to prove? What? I want kids. Okay? Now, all that said, back to my original suggestion. I probably would tell them immediately. Because, first of all, you're going to get grief when it happens, and all you're doing is buying time. So when you bring the child home, then you're going to get the grief. You're also going to probably get added grief because she's going to say, you knew this and you didn't tell me. Now, she's going to take it real personal. She's going to get real mad. So if you tell her now while you're in the process, you'll probably get rid of at least that part of her upset, which is you don't even think enough of your mother to tell her what you're planning to do with your family. And you can say, well, Mom, I'll tell you why I didn't tell you, because you always have these comments and they're negative, and we just didn't want to hear it. You could risk a riff. Rift? Yeah. So, I would suggest you do it now for 2 reasons. 1, you don't want to be bullied, right? Because that's really kind of what it is. You're basically gauging your behavior because of somebody else's reaction. And 2, you will reduce the complications of your mother getting upset because you kept this from her. Because she'll take that, my guess would be, she'll take that as a comment that you just simply don't trust, that she cares for you and she's worried about you and she's thinking you're overloaded. See, the bottom line is you want to overload, you overload. Amazes me too. Generations before us had 2, 3, 4, 5 kids. Didn't think anything of it. And now, when our houses are bigger, generally we're more educated. They think you can't handle it. Don't do it. What are you doing? One final statistic here. It's interesting. It shook me. Women between the ages of 25 and 44, right now in the U.S., what is the modal number of children? Modal, if you remember your statistics, modal is the most common number. Modal number of children between kids, young adults between the ages of 25 and 44. Most common number of children? 0. Strained or broken relationships are a given in most of our lives. friends fall away, siblings drift apart, children sever ties with their parents, and despite our best efforts, these painful fissures are difficult to mend. Hi, I'm Dr. Ray. If you want to learn how to communicate better with the difficult people in your life and be a more easygoing, more forgiving person, check out my book, How to Get Along with Almost Everybody. Check it out. And all my other books on the store page at AveMariaRadio.net. That's AveMariaRadio.net.
Sin creates a proclivity to sin, the Catholic Catechism teaches. It develops vice by repetition of the same wrong act. Thus, sin tends to reinforce and reproduce itself. Vice can be linked to the capital sins, which are called capital because they can engender other sins and other vices. The capital sins are pride, avarice, envy, wrath, lust, gluttony, and sloth. Sin is a personal act, but we can also be responsible for the sins of others under certain conditions. Sin can make men accomplices of one another, the Catechism warns, causing concupiscence, violence, and injustice to reign among them. This is Peggy Stanton, and this has been the Order of Malta's Minute with the Catechism.
Maybe you've been hearing a lot about the need to make a spiritual communion while participating from home in a live-streamed or broadcast Mass. Maybe you've even prayed the prayer of spiritual communion. Spiritual communion is a concept that goes all the way back to the 4th century. It flourished in the Eastern Church and gradually moved west. Spiritual communion stresses the transcendence of God, where we unite our desires, intentions, and loves with the holy sacrifice of the Mass and the consecration of the Eucharist at the altar. Jesus, I embrace you and unite myself wholly to you.
Oh, that's cool. Thank you for joining me here, Dr. Ray Grandi, program Doctors in E-Person Monday. Hi, Dr. Ray. I am having learning pains with a third child who is now a teenager. Well, in between the lines, she's probably saying that this one is the toughest of her kids, at the very least during the teen years. For one, I didn't grow up myself with a dad. Okay, so this is a father. So everything is firsthand learning, experimenting. Okay? Let me comment there again, though. It is and it isn't. Raising kids is not nuclear particle physics. Raising kids is heavy doses of good sense, logic, love, and confident authority. It's always been. I have 3 other children. One is a priest now. See, okay, I knew it. See, I got this a while back, so I don't remember where this particular email goes, and I always like to anticipate in between the lines where it might be, because sometimes it's as surprising to me as it might be to you. One is a priest. All right, so you got to figure, in all likelihood, that first kid didn't present him with the same struggles that this third kid is. One is a priest now. And the second, a daughter who is doing her MA, Master of Arts, in mental health counseling. Well, okay, you did have somebody struggle there. No, all right. So he's saying, all right, my theory, the first 2 went pretty smoothly. Oh, this is interesting. I didn't know this was coming. For both of these older kids, I wasn't much involved or wise. Now, I don't know why that is. My guess would be working too long and too hard. With the third one, I am too involved and a rookie. He capitalizes rookie regarding his character and personality. Here is what I typically get. When a parent tells me that a kid is troublesome for him, 92.659% of the time they say, but overall he's a great kid. And then Dad says, third child is a great kid. Very intelligent, very high grades. They always say that too. They always say, gets good grades, is not in trouble with the law, not on drugs. Well, I don't really view good grades much anymore as a heavy sign of adjustment or virtue, because grades are just, they're so easy to get anymore. And he's very good with sports. He's a national bowling player and now basketball. From time to time, we get on to each other's nerves. I think I overdo helping him anticipate the consequences of not doing or rewards of doing. Okay, let me stop there. I guess that would depend. If it's a lot of nagging and lecturing, yeah, you're probably going to get a lot of looks that say tape number 106. So in that sense, if it's repetitive, then yeah, you're going to see his eyes glaze over. I try to help him understand to be disciplined more. Okay, now I'm getting confused. So on one hand, great kid, very intelligent, high grades, good in sports. Trying to understand to be disciplined more. Now, typically, is this what? For chores around the house? Respect? What exactly is it? All right, I don't know yet because I haven't read the rest of this. You say, why? Well, I didn't say that, but I'm thinking it. Well, the answer is I struggle myself to always be disciplined and consistent as an adult. And no one said any of these good things to me growing up who is a man. Okay, yes and yes. However, you look at the results. If you're saying that your son is somehow undisciplined in certain areas, whatever that might be, less time on the computer, more help with chores, more respectful, less arguing, whatever that is, you deal with that. You don't nag and you don't jaw it out for an hour and a half. You set up your terms and you back them up. I grew up with a mom and for a while with a stepdad. The question is, how can I continue to be a good dad, supportive without the unnecessary pressure? Well, again, I keep waffling here. If the pressure comes in words, you're going to get resistance. If you have certain expectations for good conduct, morality, virtue, responsibility, then you enforce those expectations without a whole lot of nagging, without a whole lot of lecturing and reminding. I am trying to make him open up and see and think. Maybe he does. Maybe I need to pay attention to him more. Well, that I don't know. I don't know what kind of attention it is. It sounds to me like there are things about him that you're worrying about, even though he gets good grades, even though he's not on drugs, even though he's good at sports. There's something there that's making you worry about this because for whatever the reason, you didn't worry about it so much with the first two, even though you say you weren't all that involved. I also allowed him a few privileges that get on my nerves sometimes. There it is. I knew it. It took me to the last three sentences of this e-person. A hand-me-down PlayStation from an older brother and his constant use of a cell phone. There you go. Okay, so now you got specifics. You are saying too much screen time, way too much screen time. Now he's managing to do okay in school and in sports, but apparently other than that, he's not spending a whole lot of time interacting with his parents or his dad because he'd rather be on the phone or on the screen. Now that is where you need to step in. At one point, I took these away from him for months. Now that indicates to me that it had gotten to the point where it was severely interfering with the dad-kid relationship. Now he is asked to be trusted. All right? Give it to him in limited amounts. Any good books on parenting? Yeah, I suggested one to him. Give it to him in limited amounts and tell him it will all depend upon his responsibility and trust.
Father Benedict Rochelle.
I don't think people should have negative fears of God, but I think you should get a lump in your throat. You should feel excited. Suppose I was going to take you and introduce you to the Pope or to the president of some country or something. You might get a little lump in your throat. Forget it. Every day, you, I, live and move and have our being in the presence of God. These are the class of feelings we should have, and we should have them to an intense degree if we really had the sight of Almighty God. These feelings are the feelings which we shall have if we realize His presence, and in proportion as we believe that He is present, we shall have them. And not to have them is not to realize, not to believe that God is present to us.
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
Christ is the answer with Father John Riccardo.
Are you passionate about Jesus? Are you zealous for Jesus? Are you fervent for Jesus? Are we fervent for the gospel? Are we passionate about helping this world come to know Him? Is that true? It's not true for most people in the church. Is Jesus my best friend? Is He your best friend? I'm looking around the church. There's a set of guys in here who have great man caves. As I was praying this morning, I felt like the Lord said, hey, when are you going to come to my man cave? Like, you guys think a flat screen TV is really cool. Well, you should see what I got to offer. Because I and I alone, He says, can really give you what it is you're longing for. Whoever it is we're rooting for right now, they're going to lose eventually. Or whatever it is that's occupying our time, one day we're going to realize it really wasn't that important. Why aren't we hanging out with the one who alone can show us what life is really all about? When was the last time you hung out in the Lord's man cave?
There are things that you gain from experience, themes that obviously whatever education that you got as you prepared to be a shrink, nobody really brought it up. And again, I would say that 95% of what I know or am able to explain or advise was post-PhD. Much of what I learned in grad school was evolving around research and clinical, but yet at the same time, whatever internships I spent 3 years in internships, they were the beginning of understanding what this was all about. And since then, 40 plus years later, I have gained a lot of experience, and the advantage I have in most cases is that whereas, say, someone who comes to me and says, my child does X, their experience is a set of 1, sample size of 1, their child. My experience is that particular problem I've seen hundreds of times. And so therefore, I have a broader range of trying to understand it. And one of the things I noticed, this was, 10, 12 years post PhD, was that a high percentage, I'd say probably over 50%, of parents who come to me, either in therapy or even on the radio here, and you saw this on the previous email, describing a list of their frustrations with this child, will say, but overall he's a great kid. And sometimes what they describe is some really nasty behavior. The mom will come in and say, he took a swing at her, or he stole part of her credit card. And then she'll say, but really, for the most of the time, he's a good kid. Now, I won't argue with it. I'm not going to say, I don't know. I guess it depends how you define good kid. But I've noticed this in our culture. We are more likely to call somebody pretty decent if they have no overt pathology. And by that I mean if they don't have serious deficiencies in their personality or their conduct. When there is a struggle for them to show virtue or maturity or trustworthiness, now that moves the bar up higher. So a parent who comes into my office and describes a 14-year-old's conduct, who has, say, for example, had a series of nasty talk to his mother. I mean, it's his style, he's just nasty. But she'll say, I think I'm giving you the wrong impression. He's pretty much a good kid. People really like him. He's very popular. He's an altar boy at church, and he's a number of clubs at school. All that may be fine. But the fact that he mistreats his mother like that, now most of the time she allows it, but the fact that he still does not speak to his being a mature, trustworthy kid. It doesn't. I guess I'll draw a parallel between the church's teaching. There are times I've gone to the prison. I got a chance to speak with the guys. My guess would be, I'd say probably 90 to 95% of the time that those guys were functioning in the outside world, they were perfectly fine. They weren't breaking any laws. They were mostly minding their own business. Many of them were working. It's just that 7 seconds they pulled that trigger. Or it's just that 12 minutes that they robbed that place. Or that time they dealt that drug. So the church teaches, you can be seeking God, but if you turn around and commit adultery, you've jeopardized your soul. And you can't say to God, well, yeah, but wait. 99% of the time, I didn't commit adultery. I was fine. Yeah, perhaps. But just that one time you did that. So I guess what I'm saying is, I'm not saying the kids are not valuable souls. Infinitely valuable souls, gifts of God. I'm not saying that. My argument is with our sliding definition of good kid. You're not in trouble with the law. not on drugs, never been thrown out of school. Good kid. See, those are all lack of pathology. Used to be, well, I can't say it used to be, but I think it would be better if we reserved the word good for qualities of maturity and character and virtue, charity, those kinds of things. You would do well to define good. Well, I got to take a good break.
Underwritten in part by the following nonprofit.
Are you paying high prices with a traditional health insurance company that pays for things that violate your conscience? There's an alternative available. Solidarity HealthShare is a community of faithful individuals and families that never share into immoral medical services, all while saving you money with prices starting as low as $85 per month for singles and $512 for families. Never fund another abortion with your healthcare dollars. Call 844-313-4999 to learn more.
The following program is brought to you in part by MyCatholicWill.com. Surveys show that more than half of Americans do not have a will. At MyCatholicWill.com, it takes as little as 15 minutes to write your will and secure a legacy of faith. MyCatholicWill.com is the exclusive online destination for creating a Catholic will. The process of writing a will is simple and now more accessible than ever. MyCatholicWill.com, a legacy of faith for those you love.
The wisdom of Mother Angelica.
You remember the time I said on the air, go to confession. And when you're done, go out and have a big ice cream soda. Celebrate. And a man wrote to me, he said, I hadn't gone to confession in 30 years. Do you mind if I went and had a pizza? I said, have 20 pizzas.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
Do you own popular index mutual funds or ETFs? If so, you're automatically own shares of companies that conflict with your moral beliefs. Ave Maria mutual funds are managed to conform to pro-life and pro-family values. Long-term investors can invest in the no-load Ave Maria mutual funds. The experienced professional portfolio managers make decisions based on investment fundamentals and pro-life values. You can learn more about Ave Maria mutual funds today at 866-AVE-MARIA or visit AveMariaFunds.com.
I thought it was the dryer. I told this to my wife. I said, honey, I think that our dryer is too hot. It's making my clothes shrink. And she said, Ray, the refrigerator is making your clothes shrink. I hate when she's right like that. Dr. Ray, I was listening to your show while driving. When you fielded a call about exercise. Yes, I've mentioned this before. I was 18 years old. In college, some buddies that were into lifting. Back in those days, nobody near as many people were into lifting as now. And they took me to the weight room, put me underneath a bench, underneath the weight on a bench. Said, see what you can do. Now, me being a short, squatty Italian, typically you can bench more. You can bench press more because you don't go as far. Somebody that's 6'6" with arms that are a foot longer than mine are going to have a heck of a time benching because they've got such a long way to go. I could not take any notes, but I would really like more info. I'm 52. And over the past 5 years, I put on weight like never before. Well, let me stop there. Well, yeah, it's good to get back into some kind of physical training, but that's not going to make you lose weight. Oh, it might help a little. But in fact, let's say you get on the elliptical and you just pound away at it. And you're on it for 45 minutes and you burn 300 calories. You eat one good-sized cookie and you got it all back. One piece of pie and you got more than it back. So if you're going to drop the weight, you got to cut the calories. However, if you do add muscle is a very active tissue. It's metabolically active. It burns calories just existing. Roughly for every pound of muscle on your body, you burn 50 calories. Muscle takes those 50 calories per day. So if you're carrying 10 extra pounds of muscle, which wouldn't be too hard to do, really. If you work out for a year, I bet you could. That's 500 calories that you're going to burn. And if you keep your caloric intake the same as it was, you will lose weight. Okay, I was intrigued and encouraged by the information you shared about working out 2 days per week, doing one set to almost failure of exercises for the full body, using machines instead of free weights. Yes, most of the research, there was an awful lot of weightlifting lore. 3 sets, repetitions 8 to 10 to 12. That was all weightlifting lore. As they studied it, and they have just all kinds of sophisticated ways of studying hypertrophy and the buildup of muscle tissue, they found that if indeed you're not bodybuilding and you're not into this to be some kind of over-committed professional, that you can make gains. Absolutely, you can make gains lifting twice a week. Twice a week. Make sure you hit major body parts. In other words, don't go in and do reverse wrist curls. You're going to do body exercises. You might do something for your chest that's big, maybe a press for your chest, pull downs for your back, sit-ups, leg presses, 6 or 8 or 10 different exercises, one set. Well, how many reps? It depends. Say 8 to 15. They've kind of said that really the reps are not the big thing. The big thing is going to near exhaustion. They've also found out you don't have to be killing yourself on that final rep where you're just gutting it out and you're shaking and trying to get that last one. Used to be thought that that's where, whoa boy, that's where you make your gains. And what they're finding out is, no, make sure that you're to exhaustion. Perhaps you could do one more, but you don't need to because you could risk injury. The other thing is, you find out where exactly your max is in terms of, I can do 9 reps with that amount of weight. All right. That 9th rep, were you just absolutely straining to do it? Well, then stop at 8. And they found that you can pretty much have the same gains. Why do I suggest the machines? Because with free weights, when you're using dumbbells or you're using a weight bar, there's a certain amount of coordination that's involved. And if you're just starting out, what happens, for example, if you try to do these dumbbells and you get down on the bench and you got a 35-pound dumbbell in each hand and you're pushing it up, and then toward your last rep, all of a sudden you can't handle it and it starts to dip towards your chest. Then what? Or, like I did one time when I was lifting at college, I put a heavy weight on and I wanted to see how much I could do, and I was by myself. And nobody was home at the house where I lived with 3 or 4 other guys. I'm in the basement. And my 3rd rep crashed upon my chest. And there was no way I could get it off. No way. I was physically exhausted. I'm done. Close to 300 pounds was sitting on my chest. And I'm thinking, what do I do now? Fortunately, I didn't have collars on the ends. And I wrestled it to kind of at an angle so that the weights fell off the one side, and then the other side went crazy and flipped over, but I was out from under it, which was really stupid on my part. So that's why I oftentimes suggest the machines. You still get the resistance training from the machines, but it's safer. And by the way, keep track. You want to see yourself make gains. Keep track. The reason I suggest, too, is because most people don't have time to get in there 3-4 times a week. Not anymore. You did when you were 21, but you don't now. It's very difficult. And when people can't get in there 4 times a week, they start to fade. It's like, yeah, I missed 2 workouts last week. I only went in twice, and I worked my back on the one day, and I just did my legs the other day. No. Full body, whole time. And Tom, I'll send this to you so you'll know that you can grab it again. Thanks for joining me here on The Doctor Is In. I'm Dr. Ray. Good Lord permitting, I'll see you tomorrow where we can talk together, you and I. We can exercise our heads. Walk with God. That's probably about the best walk you can do. No, it's not probably. It is.
For information on Dr. Ray's presentations, books, and CDs, visit drray.com and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. The Doctor Is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.